So cracks in the Trump coalition, the big crack over the last few days, I guess, has emerged between MAGA, the traditional base of support of Donald Trump, and the tech bros, like all those Silicon Valley guys, the Elon Musks, Vivek Ramaswamy, the venture capitalists, the guys who are enthused about Donald Trump, went to Mar-a-Lago, kissed the ring, are getting appointments in the administration, and yet MAGA is kind of flipping out. It started with the fact that Donald Trump appointed a guy whose name escapes me right now, and I'm looking for it right now, but a guy to his administration with an Indian name from Silicon Valley, one of the, I think it was to the second in command, kind of the new AI and crypto czar's office. And this guy's a Silicon Valley guy, an Indian, obviously from Indian descent. And MAGA freaked out. Why is Donald Trump appointing Indians to his cabinet? Why is he appointing immigrants to his cabinet? There are too many Indians, there are too many immigrants in this country, and certainly too many Indians. And then, of course, Elon Musk and Vivek and a bunch of others posted stuff about the fact that the United States needs more talent, high-skilled labor. We need to increase H-1Bs and bring in more engineers and bring in more really, really brilliant engineers and really, really smart engineers. And MAGA just flipped out. H-1B is just a scam to reduce the wages of Americans. H-1B is just a scam to take the jobs of Americans. Who the hell said these immigrants are smart anyway? There's a funny tweet by a guy. He posted this thing, you know, basically saying, these immigrants are not that smart. He's replying to a post by an immigrant, an Indian guy. These guys are not that smart. Who do they think they are? You know, fake degrees that they got, who knows where, and they come here and then nobody's. And the guy who had tweeted the original tweet has a PhD in computer science from Stanford and a bunch of other qualifications. And of course, this guy who was responding, this American responding, you know, has a degree from some ho-dunk university in the middle of nowhere. It is insane, but this is the MAGA attitude. The MAGA attitude is America is for Americans. I don't know where they cut it off, how many generations you have to be born in America to count as an American. But real blatant, unequivocal, racist comments coming out of them, anti-foreigner comments, xenophobic comments. It also puts to the lie the whole claim that MAGA, no, they're just against illegal immigrants. They want legal immigrants. They want high-skilled immigrants. Well, as soon as you start proposing increasing high-skilled legal immigration, they flip out. Why can't Americans have those jobs? I saw one tweet saying to Elon Musk, replying to Elon Musk, if you doubled your wages, then there wouldn't be a labor shortage. Like, where will all these smart American engineers appear? Where would they come from? Let's say we did that. Let's say we had a new minimum wage for programmers, for tech entrepreneurs, for tech workers, a new minimum wage for tech workers. Let's make it, fairly generous. Let's make it $500,000 a year. So anybody in the tech business starting salary, $500,000 a year. Okay. Are there any more tech entrepreneurs now? Now, at the margin, true, some Americans would go into engineering who wouldn't otherwise have gone. Although, tech salaries are pretty high already, right? They're six-figure salaries already, which is not true for most American jobs. But let's make it $500,000, really incentivize them. Where are they going to come from? Which Americans are so unemployed right now or so able, skilled, smart enough to be tech employees, to be programmers and engineers, and who are not going into the engineering because the salaries are not high enough? I'm calling BS on that. BS on that, right? Elon Musk, pays high salaries. So does Amazon. So does Google. So does Apple. Big tech actually pays significantly higher salaries than the rest of Silicon Valley. But generally, Silicon Valley salaries for starting engineers are over $100,000, and for many, approaching $200,000 easily. And senior engineers, many are making well into the went into the six figures all the way up to 500,000. Of course, much more if you count stock and stock bonuses, and stocks are going up, particularly right now. And if you count, startups and everything else, I mean, average salaries are way up there into the six figures. The problem in Silicon Valley is not wages, and yet it seems like just in the semiconductor industry, to fulfill all the jobs of the CHIPS Act, we're short about 160,000 engineers. 160,000 engineers. That's just in semiconductors. But the reality is the U.S. economy is short hundreds of thousands of engineers. And the American educational system and the American people just can't fill all those jobs. But even if they could, why shouldn't American engineers face competition from smart people overseas who want to come to this country to work hard, make a living, produce, create, build? So it is amazing, right? Amazing. The reality is that right now, there was a study that showed that 51% of billion-dollar startups, right? So these are the successful startups. These are the ones that really make it, really hit it, right? 51% of them were founded by a team that included at least one immigrant. Collectively, the 44 companies, this is back in 2016, it's the same today though, were valued at $168 billion. They created an average of roughly 760 jobs per company, multiply 760 by 44, in the United States. So the reality is that it's not even about salaried employees that are needed. We need entrepreneurs. We need people who can start companies like this. And people who can start companies like this create huge numbers of jobs that are very, very, very well paying, including for Americans. So, if you want to make it easier to exclude these entrepreneurs, then you are anti-American. You are acting against America's interests, against the economic interests of most Americans. You are being destructive to the U.S. economy. I mean, bring the entrepreneurs on. Bring them in. Troy just came in with 500 Australian dollars. Thank you, Troy. Really, really appreciate that. That is incredibly generous. Thank you, thank you, thank you. One of these days, we will meet up. We didn't make it in Australia this time. So I'm looking forward to my next trip to Australia to be able to meet Troy in person finally. And of course, what you get are people whining about foreigners taking their jobs, foreigners destroying companies they worked at, foreigners being trained by Americans and then replacing them, and then Americans can't find jobs because unemployment in America is so high, particularly among engineers. So high. So what is the solution, we're told? Well, the solution is we should go out there And this is a kind of the Techbros want to bring in more H-1Bs. But the MAGA says, okay, maybe we can bring in just the geniuses. Maybe we can bring in just the really smart ones. Maybe we can bring in the ones that are going to start companies, the really smart ones, the foreigners. So, you know, we don't want the average. We don't want the mediocre. We want just the unbelievably smart entrepreneurs, the genius ones. You know, like the founder of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, right? You know how Jensen Huang came into the country? Right? In the 1960s, his father traveled from Taiwan to New York City to train under an air conditioning company. And after returning home, he resolved to send his sons to the United States. At age 9, Jensen, despite not being able to speak English, was sent by his parents to live in the United States. He and his older brother moved in 1973 to reside with an uncle in Tacoma, Washington. Both Huang's aunt and uncle were recent immigrants to Washington State. They accidentally enrolled him and his brother in Oneida Baptist Institute, a religious academy, reform academy in Kentucky for troubled youths, mistakenly believing it to be a prestigious boarding school. Jensen's parents sold nearly all their possessions in order to afford the academy's tuition. You want the government to screen for people like that? I mean, not only Jensen, who went on to found one of the most successful company of this decade, but one of the most successful companies in American history, NVIDIA. But he couldn't have come if his aunt and uncle weren't here. We don't know if they're particularly genius. How would this happen under only bring in the geniuses? NVIDIA. Why is it an I? Oh, it's N. NVIDIA. That's right. It should be NVIDIA, not NVIDIA. NVIDIA. Okay. It's an N. It's the letter. So the whole thing is, you know, yes, let's give the government, who we don't trust to do anything, who we don't think is competent really to do anything, let's trust the government. Let's give them more power to choose the geniuses who can come into the United States and fill the jobs. Let's do that. Now, by the way, you know, today I'm just hitting on a particular aspect of this, but we will talk a lot more about immigration on Monday. So it's pretty. Anyway, the fight between the Musk tech guys and the MAGA guys is incredibly revealing, right? Because the reality is the tech guys they want as much skilled immigrants as possible. Now, I think they're wrong, because why discriminate against unskilled, and what qualifies as skilled? But put that aside. We'll talk about that on Monday. But they want as many skilled immigrants as possible. They want to expand the H-1B dramatically program. I want to scrap it and just have a work visa program. MAGA wants to shrink H-1B. All they do is they tell lies and mythology and made-up stories, or real stories, about H-1B. They don't want competition. I mean, here's just a paragraph I think that was revealing from a guy complaining about H-1Bs, although he ultimately comes around to saying it's a good thing. He says, on the other hand, I feel I need a full-time job. And if I'm being honest, I'm pretty vulnerable to the idea that these companies are hiring an international candidate who outperforms me. So a lot of these, MAGA types think that they have a right to a job even if somebody else is better at the job than they are. And this is where MAGA and like DEI meet. This is where MAGA and the woke meet. They're all identitarians, racists, in other words. The standard by which you measure somebody else is where they come from, where they were born, what is their ethnic group that they belong to. They all feel entitled based on their ethnicity. MAGA, if you're white, you're entitled. If you're born in America, you're entitled. They don't want competition. They're both against, merit, ability as the standard for employment. They want the standard to employment, basically race. It's just that they're flipped, right? MAGA, they want the race that counts to be white, and everybody else, they want the race that counts to be anything but white. It's just, it really is unbelievable. And then I found this tweet by a guy named, somebody who's tweeting is lucky. Again, complaining about H-1Bs, and here he writes. So I'm going to read you some of this. My wife worked for a company that was purchased by a private equity firm that immediately brought in an Indian CEO. Oh my God, Indian CEOs. Those guys are dangerous. Beware. Remember the CEO of Google, Microsoft. Who am I missing? Like the two other big companies that are. The CEOs are Indian. They're all Indians, right? All Indians. The biggest, most successful companies in America today are run by Indians. And that was the other thing, right? That the tweets on Twitter devolved into Indians. We're against Indians. We don't like Indians. So this guy goes on. He pushed out all the founders, replaced all the C-suite with Indians. He used COVID as an excuse to force every employee to take a temporary 10% pay cut, and he froze all promotions. He laid off 50% of the workers, 15, almost exclusively the most experienced employees. He shut down one of the satellite offices that did more manual stuff like data entry and outsourced their work to India. My wife's workload doubled during this time period. The work-life balance and the culture created by the founders was gone overnight. Work, product, also suffered across the company. New leadership placed an emphasis on simply gaining new clients and not providing the same customer support for existing client base. Client satisfaction dramatically decreased as a result. Many clients complained that their account managers, who they had a 20-year relationship, had been replaced by someone with little experience. This story isn't rare or novel. Many Americans have dealt with a similar scenario in the last decade or so. With an Indian CEO. My wife eventually found a job at a company that's still family-owned with no intention to set up PE. So here are all the fallacies. One is he sneaks. It's a screed against PE, private equity, but he sneaks in here the fact that they were all Indians. So there's a racist tinge to this, and then you have to ask a few questions here. If all of these decisions that the CEO and management made were so bad, if customers really hated it so much, when did the company go bankrupt? Did the PE make money off of this deal? How did it make money off of this deal if the company was so badly run? Indeed, this whole mythology around PE comes in and destroys the company and makes money is, to say the least, bizarre. Because how do you make money when you destroy wealth, destroy customer service, destroy relationships? Don't you have to build up customers? Don't you have to create lasting relationships? Anyway, it's all, one of these stories. Now, PE sometimes makes errors and makes mistakes and screws up, and some of the companies go bankrupt. But this can't be common. If it was common, what would happen to private equity? They would all go bust. The private equity industry would be in tatters. Indeed, they have been thriving for the last 20 years. They've grown into some of the biggest financial businesses in the country. Why? Because what they do is unbelievably efficacious. They're unbelievably competent, and they create real value, and they have been a huge boon to the American economy. Even the ones that bring in Indian CEOs. So, if you go on Twitter, what you will find is that what we kind of believed about MAGA is true. There are a bunch of xenophobic, woke right, in other words, identitarian right, racist rights. They have no understanding of economics. They are not America first. Anybody who's America first, if you understood what America means, would want more immigrants, particularly high-skilled entrepreneurial people, who could create new businesses and increase the wealth that we engage in. You would want more Indians in particular because they happen to be incredibly entrepreneurial. They're the most successful entrepreneurial group, the most successful immigrant group in the United States happen to be Indians. They've done phenomenally well financially. They're very entrepreneurial, both at the high skill level, CEOs of many of our big tech businesses, but also if you look at Indian Americans, they own hotel chains all over the country. They've done phenomenally well in business. They own convenience stores. They're entrepreneurs, not just the high skill ones. Even the so-called low skill ones have created real wealth. And that's going to be my big disagreement here with the so-called, the Techbros is they're so tech, centric that they miss the bigger picture. What you really want is to allow immigrants to flow in this country, any immigrant who is a wealth creator, any immigrant who wants to come and work, make a life here, take a job, create wealth. They should all be welcome. Why limit it to those in tech? Why limit it to H-1Bs? Let's expand the work permit visas, the working visas. All right, to be continued, but that's just one of kind of the fractures that have appeared. You remember the first fracture was it last week or the week before when they had the big battle over the continuing resolution in the House, and you saw the first fracture between Elon Musk and Trump. Now we've got the fracture between MAGA and tech bros around Indians, or more generally around immigration. And then a third fracture appeared yesterday. And this is Elon Musk sent out like a Christmas tweet with a photo of him dressed up as Santa, looking very, very slim, I might say. And the title of it is Ozempic Santa. Ooh, this is Elon Musk giving a thumbs up to GLP-1 drugs. Then he writes, like cocaine bear, but Santa and Ozempic. And then he says, well, technically, Mounjaro, which is the GLP-1 that he has been taking, but that doesn't have the same ring to it. And he's right. So it turns out that Elon Musk has lost quite a bit of weight using Ozempic, as of a lot of people. Ozempic is a drug that reduces obesity dramatically. It reduces appetite, reduces the amount of food people eat, and therefore is a huge win for anybody who's overweight and can take this drug and really you can lose weight. And Elon Musk in this photo looks incredibly slim. And if you've seen him, he's quite slimmer than he was a few years ago. And so what is the crack here? What is the dispute? Well, who is against Ozempic? Who is against the whole class of GLP-1 drugs and has been vocal about their opposition to GLP-1 drugs, which are in many ways, pretty miraculous drugs if you look at all the positive side effects that they have. They have some negative side effects. You have to watch muscle loss and bone, but you can solve that by lifting weights, right? But well, it's RFK. It's the whole "Make America Healthy Again" BS stuff. So God forbid you take a drug to actually help you. Oh no, you have to do it all natural. And RFK is going all in on all natural. And so we're going to have an interesting conflict between Musk and RFK around at least GLP-1, if not a lot of other drugs. And then of course you get all the people, talking about how dangerous GLP-1 drugs are and all this other stuff, right? So RFK is gonna take it on, no question. There was that Also, that picture that supposedly, you remember RFK on the plane, on Trump's plane, sitting there with Musk, and I can't remember, maybe Vivek, and he's eating a like McDonald's burger. And of course, RFK immediately said that, he had no choice. It was the only food available and all of that. But who do you think made sure that it was the only food available? It was Trump, Musk, those guys. They're not into this RFK nonsense. And look, I'm all for eating healthy. Yeah, I think eating healthy is great. I'm also for, there's I don't know how many million, 100+ million Americans who are obese, and changing their diet is not going to make them healthy. It's not going to get them thin. It's not going to happen. Give them Ozempic while you also help them do some exercise and eat well, and generally keep the government out of all of it. Keep the government out of all of it.